Good evening. That's St Paul's Cathedral. And can you see the shard in the mist there? So we're up in town because it's well, the day started rather late. Let's begin with that. So this isn't the beginning of the day. We have been to Westfield twice, which is why I haven't seen anything filmed, because we had to drop our phones in to get batteries replaced and what have you. And yes, that took a few hours, and then we picked up our phones on the way out here. And we're looking for a bar somewhere in St Paul's because Abbi's having a birthday, which is where we're going right now.
Welcome to another episode of Toby's Stupid Vlog.
Good morning. Happy Sunday. So I've come for a walk along the Thames path, as you can see, because the weather's quite pleasant. It's a little windy, it's not too bad. And I thought, why not do some exercise, because Crystal's spending all day at a spa with Hayley, so there's no point staying indoors when it's pleasant enough. But I forgot that the Thames path the weekend is absolutely filled with fair weather athletes cycling and jogging and generally taking up space, so I'll just have to cross over and make do. It's actually so busy it's slightly tiresome, if I'm honest. I thought it'd be quite relaxing, but it isn't, because you either have a runner breathing down your neck or one running straight at you expecting you to move, and none of the cyclists understand what pedestrian priority means, which isn't actually surprising, because I swear 300 days out of the year I see a cyclist go through a red light, so they don't really big on obeying rules. So it's a bit annoying. So I'm going to try and find the sort of less worn paths when they diverge a bit, get away from the throngs, and try and have a slightly more relaxing rest of the walk. Anyhow, so yesterday, as I mentioned, we took our iPhones in for new batteries, taking advantage of Apple's battery replacement program, not least because my battery's now 2.5 years old and it's not holding charge great, so why not get a new one? But what we hadn't accounted for is the fact that it takes them about 6 hours to do, which meant we had to leave our phones at Westfield and come home. And not having a phone for 6 hours was quite a liberating experience, although quite alarming the amount of times you reach into your pocket. So that was quite good. Obviously you didn't see anything because of that, but it was quite a different experience. And then Abbi's birthday bash in the City of London, they literally hired the bar because nothing is open in the City of London at the weekend. It was good fun. Drink some food and what have you. And that brings me to this week, which is basically food week, if we're honest, because yesterday had lunch at Westfield and snacks at Abbi's, and then, as I mentioned in the last vlog, we've got Shrove Tuesday, Abbi's birthday, Valentine's Day, and catch up with Vino, which all involve eating in some form or another. So this week is going to be eating week. It's turned out nicely once you get away from the hordes. It's highest tide, but then it is getting towards spring. And it's surprisingly blue. Hello, happy Monday, welcome to Kew. I thought I'd come in so we could have a bit of a look at the orchids. It was supposed to be lovely all day today, but actually by lunchtime this had happened, so it might clear up and the gardens are open a bit later. Just wanted to clarify something I said yesterday that I realised is going to possibly upset a lot of people about cyclists. I'm a big fan of cycling. I'm a massive fan of the sport. I think it's amazing. I watch usually Tour de France and the Vuelta every year, and I think that cycling is a great form of exercise. I just don't think it's a good way of getting around a city. I think it's quite dangerous. So there we go. Anyway, having had 3 days off in a row now, I realise that I'm slightly out of tune, as it were, and I need to probably spend the next day or two actually refocusing myself a little bit. But I still need to do a bit of exercise, which is why I'm out here heading towards some orchids. So the theme this year of the Orchid Festival is Thailand. Here's the King of Thailand. Some nice orchids. Which way should we go first? Let's go this way. There we go, we're back round. Anyhow, so that was some very nice orchids. Yesterday, the reason I didn't really explain what I was doing up in town, so I went to Hammersmith. You saw me walk there, and then I got a train and went into town. And the reason being is that I'm thinking of buying a watch. Now, if you know me, you know that's an absurd statement. Because I think technically at this point I own over 100 watches. But what I mean by buying a watch is buying a luxury watch. Buying like a forever watch, a last the rest of your life kind of watch. And the reason I'm suddenly doing that now is because I have some money that was left to me by my great uncle. And I'd quite like to spend it on something permanent. So that's what I'm currently investigating. I'll update you more when I know more. For now, I'm going to continue my walk. Hey there, happy Pancake Day. I guess that's the thing. It's an excuse to eat pancakes at least, although we won't be doing Pancake Day today because it's Abby's birthday and we're going out. And as far as I'm aware, we're not going to a pancake house, but I could be wrong. I'll be pleasantly surprised. And it's so miserable today. I'm going to go for a walk in a bit, but I don't think I'll last very long because it's cold and it's been raining all day. I did mention yesterday that I was thinking of buying a watch, and also that I had a lot of watches, most of which are reasonably cheap watches. And by reasonably cheap, I mean in the watch world, you know, you can easily pay £6,000 for a watch and it isn't exactly in the top echelons by any stretch. But by cheap, I mean all of my watches are under £150 and most of them are well under 100. So I just wanted to show you a few of them that I actually really liked, and if you have no interest in watches you can skip this whole section, but otherwise they might give you inspiration if you're thinking of buying a watch or buying somebody a watch. These are just some of the ones I really like. So then, this is one of the first watches, one of the first proper watches I ever got. I mean, non-digital, non-Casio kind of thing. This is a Mondaine. Which are probably best known because they licensed the Swiss Railways clock design. of which this is one. So this is their model. It's called an Evo, and this is the most simple design. This is the one you'll see on Swiss railway platforms. And I got this for my 21st birthday, I think. I actually bought it in Berlin, of all strange places, or my parents bought it in Berlin for my following birthday. And I like this design so much that I have over the years bought lots of different iterations of this same thing. So this is the classic one, and then a number of years later, when I was in Valencia, I bought this iteration, which is this is quite different. This is rose gold on black. It's the same basic design, but a very different execution of it, which I've liked very much. And then I got this one a few years later because this, well, actually, believe it or not, it's also a limited edition, but this was an offer in the Guardian, and this is like brass on white, the brown strap, which I like a lot. And I've actually also got, just to add to the collection, I have a pocket watch version of the original version as well. So those are all Mondaine watches, which I'm a big fan of, and as you can see, I have 4. Now, the next series of watches these are all German watches. They're all from the same manufacturer. The manufacturer is actually now called Glashütte Original, and it is effectively an amalgamation of a lot of German watchmaking that happened after the Second World War, where they all ended up in East Germany and all got nationalised by the Soviet government, effectively. But they were based on some very, very impressive marks beforehand and actually had some very solid movements. And so this is quite a small one. This is, a sort of gold on cream. You can see, if you look carefully, it says made in Germany at the bottom. GUB, that was the combined name of them. So that's the first one I bought. That's a reasonably cheap watch. It's just a nice little gold beater, if you might say. And then I got, this is very sort of Art Deco-y, black and white affair, with a sort of raised section in the middle. It's quite interesting. It has no second hand, but I quite like it. None of these straps are original, as you might imagine. These watches are all from the 60s. So that was quite an interesting one. And there's one of them is actually in the shop at the moment, a very 70s affair with a sort of square frame. And this is the other one, which is the same movement. This is a so-called Spesimatic, which is a wonderful German way of saying that it's a special watch that is an automatic watch. This one is enormously thick, but it's got a lovely blue face and these really, really obvious markers for each hour. It's very heavy, this watch. That's the only drawback. You need a really chunky strap to keep it on your wrist. And lastly, the one I'm most proud of, I suppose, is this one, which they've recently tried to re-release, the company Glashütte, and this is the original. This is a 1960s watch with these most beautiful numbers on the dial, which I think are really impressive. And yeah, that's my best watch in many ways. It didn't cost me much, but it's probably worth far more than I paid for it. It's got a nice calf skin strap that I bought recently. So yeah, I have 5 of those in total. Next up, and lastly, I've got a series of swatches. I'm a big fan of swatch. I think plastic watches definitely have their place. I have a lot of full spot watches. I've showed you before, the little things that pop in and out, multicoloured straps that you can change. But Swatch is the absolute daddy of plastic watches. Nobody does them as well as Swatch. And this is the best watch they make. They make lots of iterations, and I have 3. This is called a System 51. They all have this sort of pattern on the dial. They're all automatic watches, interestingly. I don't know if you can see the weight move in the back there. So the weight spins around. Let me just spin it at the back, and that winds the watch. Even though a large amount of the back is plastic. So this is a blue one. This is from their first series. And then the first one I actually got was this quite stunning white version, which also has a multicoloured back that spins around. And then most recently I got this, which is a special edition that the watch blog Hodinkee designed with Swatch, which actually has a metal face, but the rest of it is plastic. And yes, that also has quite a lovely winding movement at the back. You can see it spinning around. So those, the three System 51s, they all cost about the same amount of money. The Hodinkee one has to ship from the US, so that cost a bit more. But they're all about £100 at the moment. And then lastly, from Swatch, they do special edition ones for different places you visit. And so these are the boxes for the three that I have. They're all quite nice. They have little sort of stamps on and postmarks, and then say where you've come from to buy them. So here they are with the London one on the right. The multicolour strap says greetings from London. There's a couple of London iterations. You can only buy them at the Westfield store and the Oxford Street store, I believe. So that's in a navy blue. And then this one I got is the first one in the series actually that I heard about when I was in Brussels. As you can see, there is a very charming mannequin Piss on the front, and his Piss changes colour instead of having a date marker on there, so that's quite hysterical. And that's got a sort of tan and blue finish. And then this one I got this year on the honeymoon in Venice. This is a Venetian one, as you can see, with these sort of hilarious stripes and little poles for hands, a little scene of Venice on there. This is a much smaller face, but there's the last in the series, and these ones all cost about 50 quid, to be honest, something on that mark. So that is a reasonably quickish rundown of the watches. Should say that the Swiss railway watches cost about £100, except for the rose gold finish one, which is about 150. And the German watches, I mean, they're all off eBay, so they cost anywhere between about £50 and £90, depending on what sort of deal you can find. So, as I said, none of them are super expensive. It does add up when you buy a load of watches. And that's by no means, you know, but even a portion of my collection. Is just some of the interesting bits. I didn't want to bore you too much. If you're interested, I can show you a bit more. As I said, there's well over 100 altogether. Those are maybe the most interesting. There are some other interesting swatches which I didn't show you, and I've got 3 watches for my grandfather as well, which probably mean more to me personally than they would to you. But there we go. Just to give you some idea of what else I've got. Good pizza posing. Nice. Oh look, I'm back in Westfield because I've got another Apple product. I need to visit the doctor. This is my MacBook again. You might remember I came in December to drop it off, and they had to replace the screen because the Pixel had died at a cost of about £650 to Apple, I should say. And now one of the speakers has gone, so again it's another cost to Apple of about £400. So on my, £2,800 laptop, Apple have had to spend another £1,000 getting it working. Their profit margin is still reasonable, but it's getting less by the minute. Anyway, so I have no MacBook for next week, so I'm gonna sympathise, eat over here. Good afternoon. I've arrived at Waterloo in the old Eurostar platforms, which I wasn't aware that they were using again, but they clearly are, and it's quite interesting. Haven't been here in a long time. Anyway, I'm just up in town, just running a couple of chores, and the weather's so nice I might walk.
Now approaching Norbury.
I've got 2 of them, so you can borrow mine.
So as we've been talking about watches this week, the one I'm wearing at the moment is one of my grandfather's watches. And he didn't buy this watch. In fact, he found this watch. It's a Second World War era 1940s Record, which was a Swiss watch manufacturer that ended up getting bought by Longines. But in the 1940s they made a lot of military watches. And this one, in fact, was made for the German army. And it was issued to a soldier, and somehow, and we don't quite know how, it ended up at the end of the road on which my grandfather lived, sitting on a wall. And that's the whole story as far as we're aware. But the one thing that I've never really examined is, where is this road? Well, my grandfather lived at in 92 Isham Road in Norbury in South London, which is where my dad was born. But I've never actually been there, so that's where we're going. So this is Isham Road, or this is the end extension of it. The main part is just beyond that crossing there. So here we are, this is the end of Isham Road. So somewhere along here is where this watch was found, on a wall. Could be this wall, up on the left. Who's to say? When nobody knows for sure, and that's all of the story that we got. So it quite possibly could be in the wall of 112 there. My dad's house and my grandfather's house is just up here on the left. There it is, 92 Isham Road. It apparently hasn't changed all that much. I mean, on the inside it probably has, but the outside is broadly the same building it's always been. And this would have been his walk to the station, which on the way to work in the morning, which is presumably where he saw it, down there. The only other interesting anecdotes I can tell you is that the playing fields at the end here used to have an anti-aircraft gun in during the Second World War, which is kind of inevitable because it's a big open space. It's a good place to put a gun. You can see a long way. And if you turn right at the end of Isham Road, which is one way of getting to the station, I came from the very bottom here, but if you turn right just here, you can see the Crystal Palace transmitter in all of its glory. Hi there, I've come back from the future to give you a word of the week. A lot of conversations this week were me rambling about watches. So let's do watch as in wristwatch. So first of all, in German, watch is die Uhr. Die Uhr. And that is watch in German. And now in Italian, watch is l'orologio. L'orologio. That is the watch in Italian. So there we are. That is the word of the week. All done. Thank you very much for watching this week. I appreciate it very much. I hope you'll subscribe. Eventually, if I get enough subscribers, I might actually get paid by YouTube again. That would be nice. We're 10% of the way there, or no, we're 20% of the way there. It's not that terrible. It's pretty terrible. Thanks again. I hope I'll see you next week.
Toby Stupid Vlog.